Do you think one mind is better than many? Neither do we. A University of Chicago Booth School of Business MBA is for curious and collaborative people who value different perspectives and ideas. Chicago Booth takes pride in empowering and being empowered by women of diverse backgrounds. We believe that fostering an inclusive community creates an environment of analytical, open minded inquiry and produces knowledge with enduring impact. Learn more today at chicagobooth.edu/elevate. Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, conversations with women changing the face of business. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Ellevate podcast. So glad you're here with us today. We have Nephthalee Edmond Tefera, who is the Pharmacy Operations Supervisor for MedStar Health. She supports heart-centered professionals in identifying and harnessing their unique leadership power for transformative outcomes in their professional and personal lives. This was another one of my interviews. I can't wait for you to get to hear it. We talked about a lot. We really covered so much in this interview. So let's just go ahead and get to it now. Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, Nephthalee. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Megan. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Awesome. It's just an awesome time.
Oh, thank you so much. So, generally speaking, I usually start out by asking people kind of the broad question, and then we'll go more narrow from there. How did you get to where you are in your career today?
Wow. How did I get here? I'll just give you my full story. So, by profession, I am a pharmacy operations leader. But by purpose, I am a leadership and executive coach. So, my whole trajectory has always been I wanted to be in healthcare. I wanted to touch people without having to actually physically touch people. What profession lines up with that? Pharmacy. Why not? I had an interest in the sciences growing up, and it just seemed like as a kid, it was a well rounded profession. And growing up in a traditional home, I wanted to be a woman that wore all the hats, and pharmacy seemed like that would be the passport to do those things. So that's what led me down the pharmacy pathway. But if I looked at all the chapters of my life, the reoccurring theme that I thought was really unique to me was my ability to hold space for people and safe spaces, I would say. I was always the go-to to hold people's secrets, the go-to to get advice, the go-to, what do you think? Let me pick your brain. And I realized that translated into the workplace. And at the peak of the pandemic, it was just a challenging time for everyone. But what I saw stick out was who was effective at leading. And it really boiled down to, for me, uh, who showed up with the ability to practice servant leadership. And those that did were able to sustain. And those that didn't, unfortunately, they were exposed, or they were then just deemed good managers instead of leaders. So for me, what led me here today, I would actually give a lot of credence to the pandemic because it really uh, asked me to reflect and pause and ask myself, what is really soulful here? And leading and helping leaders lead has been really what has brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about the pandemic because we've talked a lot on the podcast about how the pandemic has affected things like leadership, which you have, plenty of experience in, but you also have experience in pharmacies on the healthcare side of it. What was it like navigating both of those fields during the pandemic?
It was unique. It was challenging. For a while, it felt like I was living like an oxymoron because on one end, everything is uncertain. You're essentially flying a plane and building it as you go. You know you don't have all the answers, but your team is looking to you for the answers. So that balance of being transparent, I don't have all the answers, but I am anchored here to help guide, to help coach, to help navigate this with you. I know that we don't know where all the drugs are going to come from. We don't know if we're going to be able to provide for all the patients that are in the hospital right now. But I'm going to assure you we're going to do the best we can. We're going to procure, we're going to allocate, we're going to, come up with policies, come up with our criteria to ensure the people that need it the most get what they need. So I really look back and I think of it as a time where on one end I'm doing this, but on the other end, I really don't know. And bridging that gap of I don't know, but I'm going to fight to find the answer. And it really tested everything about leadership, about the healthcare system. And while we come to the close of this quote unquote pandemic, the lessons learned, I believe, will stick with us forever.
Yes, definitely. And it seems like a lot of the leadership lessons that so many corporate leaders learned during the pandemic were being used just as much in the healthcare system.
Absolutely. It really brought to the forefront that we are all branches of the same tree and we all need each other. And, it's one thing to know the numbers, the metrics, all of that is important. But if you can't connect to the people, you can't connect to your team, there's really nothing that can be done. And the pandemic was definitely a time where if you have a workplace where your employees feel like they work for you instead of with you, you weren't going to be able to get any buy-in, and it definitely made the waters even more muddier.
Yeah. I want to go back to you were talking a lot about uncertainty, which I think we all experienced a lot of during the pandemic. I'm a person who experiences a lot of anxiety, especially when it comes to unknowns. What were some of the like tools or things that you relied on when facing, not only were you facing uncertainty, but you were having to help people through uncertainty in healthcare?
I think honesty, leaning into the transparency of knowing that you're not alone and not being afraid to pause. It was definitely a time where everything was centered around doing, doing, doing. It was also interesting because for a while we thought we needed all these preliminaries in place to get the job done, and the pandemic, really exposed. You just gotta get minds together in the right room and get it done. But with that, everyone started operating under do, 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 and it's still with us to some degree. And then that's where the whole burnout happened. But for me, with uncertainty, it just seemed like when we just sat down and paused, took a moment to just step back, we were able to just find the right compass, the right uh, roadmap, if you will, to get through. So I embraced the pause. I embraced uh, when it was just time to just say, hold up, stop. We need to reset and reconsider.
Definitely. And I was actually going to mention, you brought up burnout. You recently hosted Ellevate's roundtable about burnout.
Yes, that was also very exciting. Yes, yes. It was a good time.
What was it about that topic that, really stood out to you, or that you really felt like you wanted to bring something about burnout, because I think we're all experiencing it.
Yes, yes. I honestly feel that we live in a time where uh, people think these words are just buzzwords, that they're just words of this time, words that came about due to the pandemic. And burnout has been with us for a while. It's a word that's been coined since the 70s. And recently, the World Health Organization addressed burnout in the workplace. And many of our executives, many of our companies are unsure how to navigate what this word burnout is. And unfortunately, for some, they think that when we have these conversations surrounding burnout, we are opening a can of worms that's going to lead to inefficiency, unproductive work. But it's not. It's real. It's really creating a shift in the workplace. If we look at the Great Resignation, it's partly due to burnout. So it behooves us to want to have these conversations. So when offer the opportunity to share at roundtables, it just made sense to just bring burnout to the forefront.
And I would argue, to your point about work not being done efficiently, about
Yeah.
inefficiency, that if your employees are all burned out, you may not know it. You're already dealing with inefficiency. Uh,
Mhm.
Employees cannot do their best work if they are burnt out.
Yes, absolutely. And the
Yeah,
fact that there are a group of people that believe it's inevitable, it's part of success, that is that is
so frightening.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah, we had someone on recently who talked about Karen Dillon, who talked about micro stresses and how they all just build up and build up and build up. And it's just it's so true. Yeah. Well, another thing I want to ask you too is you said that you were always a sciences person.
Yes.
And yes, which I love because we always need more women in STEM, more women in sciences. How did you kind of gravitate toward the sciences? Was it a really early thing or did it come about later in your life?
Well, I think with the sciences, I just thought I was just always curious about it. And to be honest, I grew up in a West Indian home, so some of the language surrounding success and surrounding a career, some of it is already given to you, and uh, you kind of are given a formula. And if you deviate away from the formula, it can be a little bit challenging, a little bit stressful to navigate. So I will say my parents played a major role in modeling that the healthcare field was was a good avenue to take. I definitely had my challenges, especially in my college years, where I contemplated, is this for me? Like, do I really want to be in this realm forever? Um, but I believe that pharmacy, it's just so vast and it just provides so many opportunities that although I'm not, working rounding as I used to anymore, and now in the more so leadership space, it has provided me an opportunity to still be involved with the sciences, STEM, addressing healthcare disparities through the work of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. That I still feel tapped into the sciences, but I still understand the leadership piece that needs to be at play in the sciences. So yeah, it wasn't always glitter and gold, but I believe I've made it work for me.
I love that. And I think everyone experiences that, especially when you get one of those classes in college that you're like, is this for me? Am I
Yeah.
questioning everything that I've ever done?
Yes. Whew. Yeah.
Did you have
Biochem
was it
was something.
Yeah, which one was it?
Biochem almost took me out.
Oh, it's always chemistry. I've seen so many doctors who were like, it was organic chemistry. That like they
Yeah,
were like, I don't
yeah.
know if I was. Whew.
Biochem was my come to Jesus moment, you know.
I love that. I love that you pushed through. I was gonna say you brought up DEI in
Mhm.
the healthcare space, which is I think finally getting some of the talk that it's finally getting some of the press and the coverage that it's needed to. Is there's vast disparities
Yes.
in healthcare among people of different ethnic origin, class, race, certainly household income. So how do you go about addressing some of those, especially in a way that's like you can't fix the world, but how do you go about that in your day to day trying to manage that?
Yeah, that's such an important question. I really believe it starts with awareness and education. we could be honest here. This DEI topic can be very controversial, and for some, it can be very triggering. You know, wherever you land on the discussion, it can be heavy. It's a heavy discussion, but the facts are the facts. There are groups that have less. There are groups that don't have access. There are groups where giving everyone the same really does not compute to success. It requires a desire to want to understand. And in the sciences, it's easy to just make it, no, that's just a social thing. We talk about microaggressions, we talk about gaslighting, we talk about all the things that are coming up in the media. And it's easy to just blanket it under, no, that's just, that doesn't really impact us here. But we are seeing more and more those that have lesser education, uh, lesser access to resources. It's translating into the type of care they get um, in the maternal ward. It's translating into how their pain management looks like, and it's translating into providers not being able to get optimum results because they don't understand their patients, they don't understand their needs. So it's more so, if you have been called to serve in the healthcare space, the oath that you take is that you are going to do no harm. Part of that learning and that development should require you to understand the populations you serve. So when I look at DEI in the healthcare space, it's more so bringing um, to light a need to understand that our criteria for treatment needs to be evaluated. Our need to understand that someone born with or assigned a certain sex may not subscribe to it. So it shows up when they show up in the identity that they want to present. Are you aware in their medical chart how to treat them based on what they were assigned at birth? So these conversations centered around education, bringing awareness, just brings us closer to one another as people, as a race, a human race. And that's really my focus when I bring up or when I champion um, DEI in the healthcare space.
And I really want to as a member of the LGBTQ community, I am a cisgender woman, so
Mm.
I do identify with the sex I was assigned at birth, but I really, as a bisexual woman, always
Yes.
standing up for my community, I really want to thank you for bringing in trans healthcare into this,
Yeah.
because it's important that they be able to get the care they need
Right.
for the sex they were assigned at birth, but also be given respect
Yes.
for how they identify.
Exactly. Exactly. We can take care of someone and still respect someone. We should not dismiss their identity um, in the process of trying to bring healing.
I agree. Yeah. I remember the first time that I went to a doctor and that they actually asked me, what are my pronouns? How would I like to be identified? And I, even as a cis woman, I just really appreciated that. I thought, that's such a good way of handling it. And I remember it was Planned Parenthood, who have
Mm.
often been ahead of the curve. And I remember them asking me, do you not to get too technical about it, but that's how they said it. They said, do you have sex with people with a vagina or a penis
Mm.
or both? And I was like, that is such an interesting way of phrasing it. And I
Yeah.
said both because I'm bi, but just such an interesting way of phrasing it, of being more inclusive about, they're like, we just need to know what the healthcare is. We don't
Exactly.
need to gender this. We don't need
Right.
to make it all about um what's your specific identity or anything. It's just all we need to know is the health,
Right. Right.
which I really appreciated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the responsibility. I think it's our responsibility as healthcare professionals, and I think we're moving towards a lane where more and more people are interested in being educated, which is a good thing.
Yes, education is a good thing, and I always stand by that. I was always the kid who wanted to know more. I took
Yeah.
a very different path than you. I went the English major route, but
Oh.
but I have nothing but respect for people who take those science courses because I pushed through them. I had to take my science courses to get my degree, but I was like, I definitely could have used your help.
Yeah, but in the same breath, it's not easy being an English major either, because when you guys come out, you guys, the landscape of English majors are all over the place. You guys are in the school system, you guys are in media, you guys are in Ellevate, so
Yeah.
it's so it's you guys are everywhere, multifaceted.
Yeah, and my it's actually funny. My sister and I are like complete opposites in that way. Of she grew up. I mean, she's my younger sister, but she became a doctor. She is an audiologist, so she checks people's hearing, does amazing things.
Mm.
She was always better at the sciences, always wanted to be a doctor, and like her biggest struggles in college were she like an English course and a film course, where she was just like, I can I can tell you every single part of the ear. I can tell you every single thing and
Yeah.
how they all connect. But she's like, if you make me like take this film apart and its structure and put it back together and explain she's like, what is this? And I was just like, I don't get it. I was like, that's the easy thing. Like, and she's like, it's easy to you.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, you're curing people of deafness and doing beautiful things and helping people. And she's just like, and I have no idea what you're doing. I can't even imagine. And I'm like, I guess to each their own.
And that's why I always say we all need each other. When we're driving a car, every part is important. Like, we don't just say, "Oh, we don't need this part." Every part is important to get from point A to point B. So I really think that that's great, and that's just a true example. Like, I don't ask me to do anything in the kitchen. You
Yeah,
might have food poisoning.
I'm the same way. I burn eggs. I don't even
So
know how I did it.
yeah.
Oh, well, this has been an amazing conversation so far. We're going to wrap up, if you don't mind, with
Yes.
our lightning round.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So I'm just going to go through a few of them because I'm not going to make you do all of them. But these are just some fun questions you can answer in a sentence or less, or you can go into more depth if you want to. There's no real rules to the lightning round. But first up, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Why not? I mean, a little sweetness has never hurt anybody.
It's That's the correct answer. It's so good. I love it. So I always try to get Maricela to ask that one to all of our guests because I want to know what they think. Would you rather explore outer space or the bottom of the ocean?
Hmm. I think the bottom of the ocean. Um, I just think I don't know, the idea of mermaids, the idea of like all the different fishes, and that, we're so interested in their realm and they cannot interact with our realm. I just find it, you know, very interesting. The only problem is I don't know how to swim, so that would be hard. But I've taken all the lessons in the world, but swimming is not my forte. But I wish, when I conquer this fear of swimming, I will explore the bottom of the ocean.
I love that. I love that. It's see, I was always a kid that was like I was obsessed with sunken ships, especially like the Titanic. So
Mm,
I said the same thing because I was like, I want to find all those like like all the
yes.
missing ships we haven't found yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So I'm going to assume the answer to this is not going to be swimming then, but what sport would you compete in if you were in the Olympics?
Um, I would do running. I was actually a really good sprinter in high school and in
Oh, that's
so yeah, I don't remember my numbers or anything like that, but speed has always been on my side when it comes to athletics. So I do
Yeah, so
that.
you're a sprinter, so that's like the 100, the 200.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't remember how fast I did it in because again, growing up with West Indian parents, the focus was school, 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 So I didn't really get to dive deep into what athletics look like, but um, I, I think sprinting would be something that I would enjoy.
That's fun. And those races are just always fun too.
Yes,
Everybody gets
yes,
so pumped for them.
yes.
Yeah. If your house caught on fire, what is the first object you would run to save?
I mean, outside of my children and my husband on a
Yes.
good day, um, um, honestly, I will say the pandemic has really helped me release attachment to things. So, maybe before the pandemic, um, I would say some materialistic items in my closet, or maybe even my wedding photos, but I think outside of the people, the family, community. I'm not. I don't know if there was any materialistic thing I would go save right away.
I love that. And the beauty too of modern technology is you can back up so many photos to like the
Yes.
cloud now.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true. Yes. And yeah.
Yeah. Because there is nothing more heartbreaking than, when you hear somebody will say, "Yeah, I lost all of my photos in the fire." And I'm just, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fortunate that my wedding photographer, I remember one of the first things he mentioned to me is that he stores everyone's photos. So maybe in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll be able to get that. So
I got him.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What is the most used app on your phone?
Ooh, unfortunately, email.
Oh,
Email.
that's not that bad. Mine's
Uh,
TikTok, which is just addictive. So
yeah,
at least you're being like proactive with yours.
but then I think that's a contributor to burnout at times. We're not knowing when to step away and not, and in mommy mode, you're just wanting to solve all the issues. Like you're superwoman is nice, but we need to sometimes just detach, and that's an active thing that I work on, not being so glued to emails.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying not to be so glued to social media, but I do social media for Ellevate, so that's a catch 22.
Well, you're doing purposeful work. I mean, you're not aimlessly.
Yeah. But still, like, you end up seeing, what's trending on the sides, and you're like, "Oh," and then you're just,
Yes.
like, trying to be like, "Nope, focus in on what you're needing to do."
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
When it comes to feedback, take it seriously, not personally.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
professionally, that has helped me. And even personally, when you are given feedback, sometimes you have to evaluate who's it coming from, why it's coming, um, is it projecting? And I think with having the lens of taking it seriously but not personally, it helps you with just focusing on the feedback at hand instead of the emotions and some of the other distractions that can come when you receive feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely a person who I react with emotion, and I try very hard, I don't wanna be don't be defensive, don't be this,
Yes.
but, yeah, I'm definitely trying to take it more just take it seriously, not personally. I might have to use that.
Sure. Yes, I employ that often at work as well. So please.
I love that. All right, and then finally, what is one thought that you would want to leave with our listeners?
There is power in being. Our value, our worth does not always come from doing. There is power in just being who you are. So embrace the pause and just be.
I love that. Well, thank you, Nephthalee, for coming on and for talking to me and sharing your experience with our listeners. This has been amazing.
Yes, this was a great time. I'm glad to have experienced the Ellevate podcast. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, both the first time around recording it and the second time around listening to it. Love it both times. Let's get into our history makers for this week. Montse Tomé became the first woman to be head coach of Spain's women's national soccer team. Now, hopefully, this leads to a lot of changes with the Spanish women's soccer team. If you haven't been following that story, it's crazy. Be sure to look it up, but hopefully that's a sign of good things to come. Anne Hathaway, not that Anne Hathaway, a different Anne Hathaway, but still congratulations, became the first woman to lead the Indiana Republican Party. Kimberly Small became the first woman executive director of the Illinois Association of School Boards in its 110-year history. And then our remaining ones are all from the World Athletics Championships, which just finished out. So excited. We got several firsts. Let's go. Winfred Yavi became the first woman from Bahrain to medal in the steeplechase at the World Athletics Championships. Faith Kipyegon, legend. She's incredible. If you're not following her, follow her. She's such an amazing long distance runner. She became the first woman to win both the 1500 meters and the 5000 meters at the World Athletics Championships. And Haruka Kitaguchi became the first Japanese athlete to win the women's javelin at the World Athletics Championships. Be sure to come back next week for more of History Makers, what's coming at Ellevate, and of course, our weekly interview. Next week is going to be Maricella's interview with Hannah Morgan. Hannah Morgan equips people who are serious about their careers with the strategies and tools to market themselves during a job search and forever. So if you're somebody, I know there's tons out there who are in the middle of a job search, this is going to be one you will not want to miss. See you then. Ellevate Network drives real results for ambitious women trying to break through the glass ceiling and achieve success in their careers. We offer a platform full of resources and opportunities for growth, all designed to help you unlock your potential. With Ellevate support, you can take the first step toward achieving your professional goals. With a supportive community and tangible resources at your fingertips, you're only one step away from reaching your fullest potential. Join us today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial to start building the career of your dreams. Thanks so much for listening to the Ellevate podcast. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe, give us 5 stars, and share your review. You can learn all about Ellevate membership and all the great things that Ellevate Network is doing at our website, www.ellevatenetwork.com. That's ELLEVATE network.com. And special thanks to our producer, Catherine Heller. She rocks. Thanks so much, and join us next week.